Hi, my name is Pat, and this is my channel, Book Chat with Pat, and I'm glad that you're here. Today I'm doing a very special original tag. This is entitled The Great Gatsby 100th Tag. It's a tag that was created by Sherri at Books and Radio Plays, by Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics, and by Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads. And I was tagged by Alan. Thank you, Alan, for tagging me. I have talked about The Great Gatsby in a number of videos recently. This April marks the 100th birthday of The Great Gatsby. It's the 100th anniversary of its publication. I recently talked about the novel in a couple of videos. I did a video on why I love to teach The Great Gatsby, and I also talked about it in my episode on Sean D. Standfast's Sunday series, the Desert Island Books series, and I talked about The Great Gatsby as one of those formative novels in my reading life. I read it for the first time when I was in 10th grade. It was probably 50 years old at that time. I think that was the 50th anniversary of The Great Gatsby. So I read it for the first time a long time ago. And it was a book that made me want to study literature in college. It made me want to become an English teacher. So I'm just so excited that The Great Gatsby is getting so much attention right now. There have been several special editions of the book released this year to mark the 100th anniversary. This is a particularly beautiful one that the Library of America has put out to observe this important birthday. This is a deluxe annotated edition. It's filled with photographs, notes. That's F. Scott and Zelda. It has here, this is the original cover, which is the cover you frequently see on paperbacks. This was from the first edition, but the whole book is filled with just really, really wonderful notes and photographs and illustrations. Also a lot of information about the various film adaptations of the novel as well. Here's F. Scott. So, really, really happy to have this beautiful edition. So there are 5 prompts, and the prompts are all based on things that happen in the novel. So I'm going to get right to it. Number 1 is, do you like parties? Name a book with a big or small party in it. If you know The Great Gatsby, you know that almost every chapter has a party, whether it's a gigantic gala that Gatsby himself is hosting, or a quieter dinner party, or some kind of a drunken bash in a sweaty apartment somewhere. Almost every chapter has some gigantic social occasion happening. I thought of another novel that I used to teach and love to teach, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. This also has a number of really delightful social engagements. And, there's the very famous Netherfield Ball, where all of the young men and young women go, and all of the Bennett sisters are there, and the idea is to meet someone who might become a potential partner for you. Number 2, what would you do to get the love of your life back? because of course Gatsby is doing everything that he does in this novel, throwing these parties. He's earned all kinds of money illegally because he's trying to get back the love of his life, Daisy Buchanan. So this is, what would you do to get the love of your life back? Name a book where a lost love is the center of the story, and not a romance. That's too easy. Well, I picked 2 novels for this. These are also books that I used to teach. One is David Guterson's novel, Snow Falling on Cedars. This takes place during World War II and in the years immediately following World War II. The main character in this novel is Ishmael Chambers. He found the first love of his life when he was in high school. And that is a Japanese-American young girl named Hatsue Imada, and they're not really able to be public about their relationship because of the differences in their races. And then he goes off to war, and she breaks up with him while he's away at war. Now, when the present tense of the novel is taking place, everybody's back home again, and she's married to someone else. He's trying to deal with the results of his having, had terrible injuries in war, and he's trying to cope with the fact that he's still in love with her, and she's married to somebody else. Another book that I used to teach, and that also is about, what you would do to get back to someone that you love, and that's Charles Frazier's novel Cold Mountain. And this is a novel about the Civil War. One of the main characters in the novel is a Confederate soldier, and his name is Inman, and he is trying desperately to get back to his home in the Blue Ridge Mountains, where the woman, Ada, the woman that he loves, resides. And he goes through an incredible odyssey, incredible trials and tribulations to try to get back to the woman that he loves. And that makes up the whole novel. Okay, number 3, Nick the narrator was a character in the story, and the narrator. He really puts you into the picture. Who is your favorite narrator? Well, Nick is one of my favorite narrators, but I chose a bunch of other narrators also from books that I used to teach. I used to teach John Irving's A Prayer for Owen Meany, and the narrator of this story is John Wheelwright, who is telling the story from the late 1980s, but he's looking back on his life, and he looks back to the 1950s and 60s. And he's just a very engaging narrator. Another narrator, this will come as no surprise, a narrator that I love is J.D. Salinger's Holden Caulfield in The Catcher in the Rye. Holden Caulfield tells us on page 1 that he is in a hospital. He's telling the story from a mental hospital because he's had a complete breakdown. He then goes on to tell us about specifically 3 days in his life that led to him ending up in this hospital. But also in the course of telling us about these days, he tells us about all kinds of things that have happened in his past. He's he's a teenage narrator. He's about 16 years old, probably 17 when he's telling a good part of the story. He's funny. He's sarcastic, and he's deeply wounded, and he's just one of my most beloved characters in literature. Another book I used to love to teach, and a narrator that I adore, is Jean Louise Finch, also known as Scout Finch in Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. Now, she's an adult when she is looking back on her childhood, and then she goes back and tells us about her growing up, with her brother and her attorney father, and some of the very, very dramatic things that happened in their town, in their neighborhood, in their family. Okay, so those are some of my favorite narrators, all in books that I used to teach. Number 4, what is some advice given to you in your younger and more vulnerable years that you've been turning over in your mind ever since? Well, if you look at the very beginning of this novel, the opening paragraph, Nick tells us that he was given some great advice by his father, and that has informed the rest of his life. He says, "In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone," he told me, "just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had." And then he goes on to say that, this advice has informed him and has prevented him from being a judgmental person. Well, I thought about this, and I thought that the best advice that I ever received was when I was a very, very young person, 21 years old, newly graduated from college and about to embark on my teaching career. And the woman who hired me, who was my mentor, Harriet Marcus, hired me when I was still a senior in college. She hired me for my first teaching job. And right before I started teaching, she gave me the best advice that I ever received about teaching, and it's advice that informed the rest of my teaching career, for the next 40 years. Harriet said to me, and I was 21 years old and about to embark on teaching 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, all in that first year. She said, "Never forget, every kid in your charge is someone's beloved and precious child." She said, even if they don't seem like that, even if they're not acting beloved and precious, she said, remember, this is someone's child. Someone loves this child very much. Don't ever forget that. And it informed the kind of teacher Harriet was, because I think she looked at everyone, as if they were, her child. She was the parent while they were in school, and it informed the kind of teacher I became. It helped me to look at kids with great sympathy, with great empathy, with great curiosity, definitely with a great sense of humor, and I would say even with a great deal of love. And I know that I became the teacher that I became because of Harriet and the wonderful advice that she gave me, not just on that day, but in all of my earliest years, my first 7 years as a teacher. Okay, number 5, Tom Buchanan is not a good man, but it is done in a very subtle manner. Name a book that the character is not obviously bad, but as you get to know him, he is very, very bad. Well, for that, I thought of another play that I used to teach, and that's Othello by Shakespeare. And the villain in this play is Iago. And Iago is definitely one of Shakespeare's greatest villains ever created. He's an evil person, but you don't know that right away. He finds a way to ingratiate himself with virtually everyone, and he gets into people's good graces, and then he is able to lie and manipulate and deceive and get people to believe things that aren't true, and he gets people to do despicable and diabolical things. So, when you first meet him, and then when the characters first meet him, they have no idea that he is, what he's really about. It's a masterful portrait of villainy. Okay, and the last one is to tag some people. So if you're watching this and you'd like to jump in on this 100th anniversary of The Great Gatsby, I hope that you will consider yourself tagged. And in addition, as I always do, I'm going to tag some people in the notes below. I would love to see us all continue with this wonderful celebration of a great American novel, and one that certainly has played a really important role in my life. So, as always, I thank you for watching. I hope that you're doing well. I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.